Welcome back to Balancing Acts. We're talking with Kirk Jaffe, an advisor and consultant to small businesses who focuses on the financial side of growth. And I'm your host, Linda Hamilton, a CPA and certified exit planning advisor. So, Kirk, we just covered a lot in our first two segments, why it matters to look at your finances when you're growing. And we just talked about doing a 90-day business plan. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about cash flow, which, it can be an illusion. People often confuse cash flow and profit. They are not the same, right? And I think that's one of the hardest struggles that I've seen in my career as a CPA to get them to understand. A common statement to me is, what do you mean I have a profit and have to pay taxes? I don't have any cash, because they don't really understand where the cash went. So let's start there. In all the clients you work with, how do you get them to understand that difference between cash and profit?
Yeah, it's a tough question, right? For those that haven't made the shift, if you will. So every time I put together client packages, monthly packages, there's always a balance sheet, a profit and loss, and a cash flow statement. And you have to learn how to read those three things together. To your point, Linda, good cash flow doesn't mean profit if we're not focusing on the 15-to-1 ROI concept that we touched on earlier. So you could spend a lot of money and make a lot of money and not retain any of it. And that's important. The other piece is I have another client, that restaurant that we were talking about earlier, that makes tons of profit, but they always have a cash flow problem because they have a budget problem, because they don't understand that they're busy months, they're restaurants, so they're going to have busy months where they need to retain some of those earnings to carry forward for negative cash flow situations that come on a cycle. And because they had never learned how to read their financials, they never understood their cycles. And now we look at them and we say, oh, we know that you're going to be slow in April and September and again in December. And that's historical for the area that your restaurant is located in. So let's reserve a percentage each month so that you can cover those gaps. And I think that's really important. So it's a 15-to-1 return on one side where you make a lot of cash flow, but you're overspending and not getting a return on investment, which is draining out your profit. On the other side, you have a lot of profit and terrible cash flow because we're not properly budgeting for those ups and downs that come outside of our control because of the nature of our business.
Yeah. And, we're talking about, the focus is really on financial statements and budgeting, right? When you start to talk about taxes, what I have found, and often these are generally not my clients, but clients who come to me, they're often wanting to generate a loss at the end of the year for tax purposes. You do a lot, right? You've done a lot of mortgages, looked at a lot of financial statements for people applying for loans, and they've run into troubles where they need a credit line, but they've been reporting a tax loss, and they say, oh no, I don't really have a loss. My financials indicate I really have a profit. So how do you work with clients on that and getting them to really understand why that matters? Because you can't really grow without profit, right?
Yeah, it's a strategy. If you know that you're going into a growth period and you're going to need capital to support that growth, let's start adjusting those losses and those tax returns over a 2-year period ahead of that growth, if possible. So that's the safest, easiest way to do it. The other way, inside your tax returns, and I always work with the CPAs on this, there's appreciation, there's depletion, there's depreciation, there's a few things inside the balance sheet that are reported on a tax return that can be added back in as income for lending purposes. And so it's really understanding where to capitalize on those opportunities so that your CPA can help you report things correctly. Also, keep track of your cash flows, meaning I look at, when I do business lines of credit for clients, we actually pull their 24 months of bank statements so that we can show the deposits and where money went, so we can justify and explain why the tax return is justified, why the cash flows are justified, and why the future business plan is justified, and how they all dovetail together. So there are lots of different types of lenders out there. I tell people, actually in this book right here, Approved, this is a book about how to get your loans approved. And there's really 3 areas that converge. And that's your personal package of financials, the environment, and interest rates. And so environment is more about where is the bank and how are they underwriting, what products are available. Interest rates we can't control, they go up, they go down, but we can't control our package and how we present it. So it's understanding sometimes if you have a lot of losses, you may not get the cheapest interest rate. Sometimes if you can overcome that by providing better documentation, we can lower the interest rate and get you the financing that you need. But it's a little bit of a puzzle game.
Yeah, that you shared some great insights in that about one, are there industry things, and being able to explain. It's very important to explain the story about why there's a loss on one side or a profit, to make the underwriters right comfortable. Oftentimes there's a question of people fear getting a credit line, but we were just talking about creating, a business plan. And sometimes you do need to borrow money to fund your debt, or the timing difference, like restaurants, on cash flow. Is it a good idea to have a credit line, and when should you consider applying for one?
Yeah, if I'm a banker and an underwriter, you want to consider applying for a credit line when you don't need any money whatsoever. Those are the people they really love to make loans to, right? With the best interest rates and terms. But if you see the future, if you see an opportunity, we were talking earlier about getting in the river and following the path, there's always opportunities to make profit and to see new business places to focus our attention and new offerings for clients, or enhancing an existing offering because the environment has changed. So if you see an environment is changing, right now we're in a big geopolitical situation. So if you're in a business like, I don't know, import-export law, that's probably a high demand business right now. You may want to take out a credit line as a business attorney, and say, let's start running a marketing campaign explaining our ability to navigate through these waters and these geopolitical issues if you're an import-export business that has that need. A lot of lawyers don't advertise. So that would be an appropriate reason to take out a line of credit to get the word out appropriately. 15-to-1 return. If your line of credit is going to push your cost basis, if you will, from a 2-to-1 operating cost to a 4-to-1 because of the cost of the program, and you can make a 15-to-1 return on your investment using that credit line, that's a great way to predictably and safely take on that risk. If you can't see the numbers, if you don't have a business plan that shows you where your potential profits are coming from, then I'm probably going to tell you to hold off or take a smaller credit line. There's no reason to, swing for the fences every time. Sometimes a base hit is just as effective as a home run in business.
Yeah, that's great advice as well. And I would say, not only like funding a market opportunity, marketing campaign, but sometimes you might want to hire to take on the extra capacity to fill that opportunity that's facing you, which is another reason. And so credit lines are good. They don't have the interest until you use it, and as long as you're looking at the story of what's coming, I think they're a great vehicle to help you with growth. Let me ask you, in terms of that credit line, we talked about habits, the habits section of your business plan. Now, if you want to see opportunities coming that you're not prepared for, what about businesses, they're stuck in the weeds. They're doing everything. They're wearing every hat. They have no capacity to get done what they're already working on, let alone the free space in their mind to be able to look for opportunities. How do we help those business owners?
Yeah, some of those people, I really encourage them to join our mastermind. You had asked me about it earlier. If you go to my website, kirkjaffeconsults.com, and just click on Contact Us, there's a drop down that says register for event. That just tells me you're interested, and we'll reach out to you and tell you all about it. But surrounding yourself with other people that have been where it is you want to go is really a big help to breaking through some of those barriers you're talking about. I find a lot of business owners, including myself in my past, have that bottleneck issue that you kind of brought up there, Linda, where they want to do everything. They don't have the tools yet to outsource a single job to a new employee. So we're talking about using credit lines to hire, but if you're hiring new employees and you don't have a very good understanding of what you need that employee to do, what the timelines look like, what a measurement of success looks like, so you can explain it to them so the employees understand that they're winning, which means your business will win. That can become a problem, and it often blows back. It rolls back up the funnel to the owner to make decisions, and that's a problem. So one way to get around that, I found, is limit the amount of time you're willing and able to work per day as an owner. If you're an owner and you say, I'm only working 3 hours a day, you have to get real strong on what decisions are being made and where you're focusing your time and what your big rocks look like. And that's one of the things we focus on in the mastermind, how to really curtail ourselves so we're making wiser decisions. It doesn't mean you have to work 3 hours a day. You might want to work longer. But if you work 3 hours a day, you have that one high value issue each day that's going to be accomplished either by you or your team. It means that the information can't roll back uphill. And you mentioned the E-Myth earlier, Linda, a great tool for evaluating when, as owners, are we going to solve the problems for our employees, and when are we going to give them the empowerment to go and make a mistake and learn along the way and actually build probably a better relationship with the client ultimately by being open and vulnerable, rather than trying to run it up the flagpole and have somebody else, the owner, figure out the problem.
Thank you for that. So much wisdom. I really want to talk more in our next segment about a little more on the bottlenecks and also systems, right? Systems for your employees, your culture, because it takes a lot to grow a successful business and to be sustainable. How can people find you online?
Yeah, always go to kirkjaffeconsults.com. Best way to get me there is hit the contact us form, fill in your information, tell me what you're looking for. We have all kinds of options in there. And also 818-469-2189 is my direct business cell phone. Call me anytime. I only answer it when I'm working.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Stay with us because Kirk and I are going to unpack some more financial side for you and helping you build a successful business.